Hi, I'm political analyst and Citizen Voice President Gary Dietrich, here to try to help you make sense out of Prop 38 coming up on this California's November 2012 ballot. This one dealing with income tax increases that would go specifically for childhood education and childhood programs. And to help us make sense out of this today is Carol Kosovar. She's the state PTA president here in California, and Jason Kinney, he's a co-chair of No on 38. Now, very quickly, what this would do is over a certain minimum threshold, about $7,000 of annual income a year, people would pay on a sliding scale from 0.4% up to 2.2% more on their state income taxes, especially dedicated to the programs I just mentioned for kids. So let's give Carol a chance to tell us, why do we want Prop 38? Why is there a yes on 38?
You know, the California State PTA, which represents over 900,000 parents, has identified adequate funding for our schools as the top priority, because parents have seen up and down the state just all the programs decimated, and we felt that it was really time for us to have something so that we can give parents and voters the chance to start to restore the programs and services that our kids need, and they can't wait any longer for this.
Jason, why no on 38?
Well, as a lifelong progressive Democrat, it's a little odd for me to be sitting here opposing a tax that would, where the money would go to schools. And I think it's odd for the State Sheriff's Association to be opposed to it, the California Faculty Association, Medical Association. But they're all concerned, like most Californians are, that this may be the wrong tax at the wrong time. And it spends the money in the wrong way. First of all, the money, and this is a read the fine print initiative. While it's incredibly well intentioned, and I give big personal kudos, I'm a lifelong fan of the state PTA, and I give them a lot of credit for what they've done as education advocates. There's a lot of flaws in this initiative that make it very difficult for the money. It's going to blow a hole in the budget in the first year, and it also jeopardizes an opportunity to really fix the school problem in the first year. Other things that are on the ballot.
Okay, we're going to get into some of this and try to give people the basics, the nuts and bolts that will really help them understand. Let me come back to you, Carol, and ask this. Prop 98 was supposed to be the funding guarantee for schools. A lot of people scratching their heads now saying, what the heck? I mean, really, why do we need another measure now to dedicate funding to schools? What's the need for that on top of the school funding guarantee we already have?
Well, the fact is Prop 98 hasn't really guaranteed the funding that our children need. We've had, $20 billion worth of cuts in our schools. Our kids don't have art and music and counselors and physical education. Class sizes have just gotten to be huge. They've cut hours and hours out of instruction. And as president of the PTA, I've heard parents tell us up and down the state, we need to start to restore those programs and services that our kids need. So this does something that's pretty simple and pretty straightforward. It raises $10 billion a year for 12 years. And that money goes directly to every single local school in California, guaranteed. And that's why we're supporting it.
As I understand it, and looking at some of the arguments here on your side, it states that these monies can't be used to increase salaries or pensions, correct?
Correct.
It says that they prohibit spending more than 1% of the money on administration. These are questions that people always have. If Jason wants to dispute these figures, he can. But I mean, this is what you folks claim. And then it says creates a secure trust that politicians can't touch. So the monies could not be used for other purposes, according to your folks.
Right. The money goes directly to every school site based on the number of kids that are at that school. And I think one of the most important things is that local communities get to say and have input on how that money is spent, because our local communities know our local schools the best. And that's one of the things that PTA parents really, really want to emphasize, is the importance of community engagement, local decisions, and making sure the money goes directly to every single school. And it does one other thing in terms of helping students. It directs a certain amount of money to early childhood education. Why would we do that? Because we know that
that is pre-kindergarten.
Pre-kindergarten. Early childhood education is absolutely critical for the success of many, many youngsters. And it's critical for closing the achievement gap, because we know if we get youngsters ready to go to school, they're going to be more successful, and they're going to be more successful through K through 12, and they're going to be more successful in higher education.
Okay, Jason, before we get to some of the things that your side has claimed, respond to that if you can. I mean, these things about, that these various guarantees that supposedly built into this ensure that this money will really get to the kids.
Well, first of all, 30% in Prop 98. By the way, no one's disputing that more money for schools, at least neither one of us are disputing that more money for schools is a good thing. Our concern about Prop 38 is that it goes about the wrong way and it jeopardizes other solutions that are A, more likely to pass, and B, have a much better chance of fixing our budget hole that affects schools than Prop 38 does. 30% of Prop 38 goes to pay off state debt. I don't think that's disputed. So this idea that every cent goes into some future fund that's going to improve schools, and I'm not sure that school districts, by and large, love the idea of creating a new bureaucracy where they have to have public hearings, they have to write a new plan and go back and beg for new money. And there's mandates in this. I encourage everyone to read Prop 38. There's several programmatic mandates in there that requires them to do certain programs that some schools may want to do, some schools won't. But again, our biggest problem here is that who it taxes. And we're talking about it taxes middle-class families at essentially the same rate that it taxes millionaires. And it doesn't fix the problem in the first year. By their own admission, none of the money goes in until late 2013. What is not disputed, and the nonpartisan council agrees with this, legislative analyst agrees with this, is that the triggers in the budget, which are going to cause catastrophic cuts to schools in year one, next year, are going to be pulled if Prop 38 passes or finishes with a higher amount of votes than Prop 30 does. And will cause a $1 billion cut to higher ed from day one, and cause a $4 billion cut to education from day one. Now, and nobody seems to dispute that to fix that, the legislature and the governor is going to have to call a special session to kind of fix this huge budget hole. In the out years, that's a nice thing to have. But we have a crisis right now that we need to fix. Prop 30 attempts to fix that. Prop 38 doesn't.
Okay, so we'll get to 30 here in just a second. But real quickly here, Carolyn, this thing about 30% of it going to address the state budget debt, why?
Well, what it does is in the first 4 years, 30% of the money, which is about $3 billion a year, $12 billion over 4 years, goes to pay off facility bond debt. So what does that do? That frees up a like amount of money in the general fund to start to address those critical issues.
Specifically school facility bond debt, correct?
Or other facilities if that bond debt is exhausted, but it's targeted for a school facility bond debt. But the idea is this: we know that we're in a challenging economic time, and it specifically provides that money so that children and families can get those services out of that other side of the budget. At the same time, it provides $6 billion that goes through K to 12. And let's just do the simple math. $10 billion is a lot of money, and it is a lot more money than any other initiative on the ballot. And what we believe, and I think it's really a sort of a philosophical issue, we're really at a turning point in California. We really believe that simply stopping the cuts, simply leaving California with funding at a new normal, which is way, way below the national average, that's not good enough for the children of California. Okay. What we need is an actual commitment to start to restore the programs and services that our kids need. And that's why for 12 years, we're going to have $10 billion a year go to help our children.
Okay, I want to get to this comparison with Prop 30, because it's going to be very important for voters this November. Okay, what the heck, we have two of these measures funding schools on the ballot for the same thing. It is confusing for people. So Carol, I just want you to first have an opportunity, and then you, Jason, why yes on 38, and I'm assuming no on 30 for you. But
no,
tell us what the PTA is.
Let me be very clear. The PTA has a neutral position on Prop 30.
Okay, supporting 38, but neutral on 30.
Which means we've looked at it, and in the view of our parents, we believe the best initiative that will really help our children in the long run to start to restore the programs and services that our children need is Prop 38. Why? It guarantees money going to every single local school based on the number of youngsters. It has to go directly to our local schools. It helps to provide support for our young children, our preschool children, early education.
And you're saying 30 doesn't do these things?
I'm saying that Prop 38 very explicitly, very straightforwardly says that is what it does.
Okay, Jason, 38 versus 30, give us your take.
Well, 30 provides money for schools in year one. It doesn't allow for the budget triggers to be pulled, so it doesn't cause a catastrophic budget hole and $5.4 billion in cuts to schools in year one, which Prop 38 would. It also has more money for schools for the length of the measure. This more money from Prop 38 argument that PTA respectfully keeps making, that doesn't really happen until 2020, 21, 22. My kindergartner is going to be in junior high before Prop 38 is making more money for schools than Prop 30 would be. And respectfully to the PTA's position in neutrality on 30, you know, if 38 passes, 30 doesn't. It's the only chance we have of fixing the hole. Every poll shows that. And the funder of Prop 38 has repeatedly launched tax on 30, said that it's terrible for schools, said all these, has been very negative about 30. And the only way, and every poll shows, the only way Prop 38 has a chance of getting above 50 is by differentiating and being negative toward Prop 30, which I believe, and groups all across California believe, is going to be catastrophic if we don't get there.
Okay, I want to have Carol respond, but I want to ask you this question first, because one of the biggest knocks on 38 has been, well, it doesn't, I mean on 30 has been that it doesn't guarantee the money for kids as well as 38 does. Right. 38 does a better job of locking in the funds for kids.
I mean, the nonpartisan LAO's office agrees with that. They, of course, say that half the money that is guaranteed to go to schools under Prop 30, and that it's designed for almost all that money to go to schools. It does have flexibility built in, which, by the way, every voter says they want. They don't want to lock us into a ballot box. They're tired of ballot box budgeting that locks us in perpetuity. We cannot amend, no matter if we fix schools or things go, or the economy changes, we can't amend Prop 38 for 12 years. It locks us in for a very long time.
So that's why you're recommending yes
Prop
on
30
30.
is a better solution.
Yeah, better solution for in your view than 38. All right, Carol, chance to respond.
Well, I think a very simple response is we have a neutral position on Prop 30, and I don't think it's good for any of us to say negative things. One of the reasons that I'm so excited about Prop 38 is it really does have a turning point in the philosophy of how we treat children in California. It starts to say we cannot keep our schools at this new normal that is way below the national average. It starts to pump money into our schools. And the most interesting thing that we've discovered is that the more people know about Prop 38, the more they like it. And I think the most important thing right now is to explain to people why the PTA is supporting it, because we felt very, very strongly that people really have to have a chance to vote on increasing funding and making sure that we do not deny an entire generation of children the quality education they deserve.
Okay, Carol's done a good job of laying out kind of their main points. 30 seconds for you to wrap it up for us, Jason. She got a good chance to lay out her main points. Why should people, in your view, then vote no on 38?
Wrong tax at the wrong time. It's an income tax on every income taxpayer in California. It locks us in with a new education bureaucracy for 12 years. It blows a massive $6 billion budget hole in year one, and is going to hurt schools in the short term, not help schools.
You know, I wish we could continue on because a lot of people saying both of these on the ballot at the same time. Going to be a tough one for voters, I know. All right, well, listen, friends, we're doing our very best to help you differentiate, make sense out of things, because we know Californians care about our kids here in this state. Hey, I'm a native Californian. I came through the California public schools myself. So, you know, take time to just do the basics. Compare props like 30 and 38. Make your best decision. Register to vote. Go to the polls on November 6th. And remember that at citizenvoice.org, we're here to help.
Can you do the close one more time?
Okay, that whole piece? Okay. So we know that Californians think that education is very important in the state. People love the children here in California. In fact, I'm a native Californian myself, grew up in California public schools. So take a few minutes, just a few, to make a good decision based on the facts related to Prop 30 and Prop 38. Go to the polls on November 6th. Make sure you're registered to vote. And remember, citizenvoice.org. We're here to help.